Hello and welcome to the latest in our DPM Academy series. This particular video is going to cover how DPM, Digital Portfolio Management, and the Common Services Data Model, or CSDM, are very interrelated and how you can use the CSDM to power your DPM experience. We're going to get into a deep dive and talk about key relationships. My name is Caitlin Morse. I am the product manager for digital portfolio management, and I'm joined by Justin Harden. Justin, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello. Yeah, I'm Justin Harden. I'm the development manager for digital portfolio management, service builder, and service portfolio management.
Awesome. Thank you. So Justin and I will be tag teaming today, and we hope you get a ton of value out of this video. Okay, you are probably familiar with the Common Services Data Model. If you are not, this is the overarching data model and best practice that ServiceNow puts forward on how you should map your CMDB for like best practices across ServiceNow. We are going to highlight the key configuration items or CIs that we include in digital portfolio management. We're going to talk about how those key relationships impact what you can see and how you see data in DPM, and ultimately how you can start to take advantage of DPM really no matter where you start in your CSDM journey. There are places that we will support and you can start to get immediate value and then continue to get more as you further adopt the full data model. When looking at this screen, I'm just going to highlight very quickly that we do surface CIs in this dark green cell consume box, including the business service and the business service offering, in the design box with the business applications, and in the managed technical services box where we have the technical services with technical service offerings and the application services. This is a better view, or I should say another view of those core CMDB tables that we surface and the ones that are very central to managing or to that end-to-end solution management within digital portfolio management. I really like this diagram because it highlights from the conceptual model then how that fits into the physical model. And this is really important because when we talk about surfacing business applications in digital portfolio management, we are talking about surfacing the records that are listed in this table. So this is a really good image to help you trace back when we say business app or when we say technical service, what table we're referencing. Now, the one caveat I want to highlight is that in the context of DPM, when we say business service, we are talking about the services that are listed in the CMDB CI service business table. And so that's listed here on the left in the notes. So you can see the table name there. We do surface services in CMDB CI service. Those, however, are just given a label of service. They're not designated as a quote unquote business service. So I do want to make that distinction just in case there's any confusion there. But again, just to highlight, we surface the business applications, technical services, and technical service offerings. The note here is that service offerings, regardless of type, will all be included in a single table, service_offering, and their classification is based on the parent service, or I should say the related service. So the service offering, if it has a relationship to the technical service, then it is considered a technical service offering. Application services, we surface application services and dynamic CI groups. When it comes to app services, we surface all records that are within this CMDB CI service table. And then down here at the bottom, again, the core solutions include the business service and the business service offering. And I did mention the note about the tables already. We also surface other items that are in this model, but that we consider more secondary. And by secondary, I mean they're not prominently managed in that end-to-end lifecycle view as those other core solution types are. So if we start at the top, this business capability, we surface business capabilities in a few different places. One place is in the relationship maps. So you'll be able to see when the business capability is related to business apps or business services. The other place that we will show business capabilities are on the detail pages of the business application or the business service. And it's in more the context of the information tab, the info tab, where it will list out, where those relationships come into play. We'll show the information objects. That is surfaced on the business application detail page, so you can access that as well as, I believe, in the relationship map. We show applications and infrastructure CIs as part of the relationship map as well. And then the service portfolio. So the service portfolio is listed here, and that is not a CI, but it's part of the enterprise portfolios view. The key thing to highlight here is there's also records called taxonomy nodes. Those are fundamentally critical to building out service portfolios. And those are also included in DPM as part of that, like the service portfolio in the enterprise portfolio module. So even though it's not included here, I like to call that out because that is important. That's an important factor when it comes to service portfolios. And then finally, request catalog items. These are shown on the service offering detail page. We track KPIs related to the number of times a catalog item was requested, for that service offering. And then we also will show just what catalog items are requestable for each service offering as well. So that's included on the detail page. So when you're thinking about the CSDM model, what is shown and sort of how in the context of DPM, the previous slide and this slide is intended to really illustrate that in detail for you. The next piece that's really important when it comes to DPM are the references. And so again, I really like this diagram because it shows you the CSDM best practice of how each CI is related to other CIs. What are those prescribed relationships per that core data model? One thing I do want to highlight is we very much, and intentionally so, align to the CSDM because there are so many different ways that organizations can build out their CMDB, build out their relationships, the tables that they use, and it becomes nearly impossible to be able to support every possible permutation. So we really needed to put like a stake in the ground of what we were going to support and how we were going to support it in the context of DPM. And so we very closely follow, again, not only the tables, but the relationships. And the relationships really impact a couple of things. So the first one is how we basically show relationships of business apps to app services, of services to offerings, and of offerings to application services. So those particular references are very important when it comes to like the core like detail pages. A perfect example is, and this actually just came up on a customer or maybe even it was an account rep that we were connecting about an upcoming demo, was they were saying, hey, I can't see the application services that are related to, or that are dependent on this particular service offering. And so after talking a little bit, we realized that he was looking at a technical service offering detail page, and he was expecting to see the application services. And you can see that that relationship is supported here. However, he was mapping technical service offerings to application services with a depends on relationship. And in DPM, we actually follow the contains relationship guidance from CSDM. So it's not that the app service or that the technical offering depends on the app service, but more the fact that it contains it. So that's why he wasn't seeing the relationship. He was following the business service offering to app service relationship types, which is that depends on. So that's where you can kind of get, or people can kind of get caught up or confused, and it is confusing. And so it's really important to always reference this in doubt. So we follow this very closely. Again, a couple of the key ones to call out are business applications. This one, referencing other business apps. So this will show up. This is important in the context of the relationship map. And also in a couple of our views on the info tab to understand how business apps are related to each other. The other one is around the business app consuming the application service. And then technical service, referencing the technical service offering, the relationship from offering to app service or dynamic CI group, and then the same thing down here on the business services side. Now, again, those are sort of those core key relationships. And then just to sort of continue or build on the from an impact perspective, we follow those relationships also in our enterprise portfolios when it comes to things like needs attention. So, how data is rolled up from a service offering to a service, to a taxonomy node, to a portfolio, or from an app service to a business application. That impacts our KPI results. Same thing with like indicator breakdowns. And then in previous releases, our relationship map was focused specifically, like we basically built out that map component following these prescribed relationships. In our latest May 2024 release, we actually took up the unified CI map. So that includes the dependency and then the service map as well. So that issue will be fixed. But if you are on a previous version, to that version, the relationship map will only show you these prescribed relationships. So it is a bit limited in that sense. Okay, so I'm going to pass it over to Justin to now get into those core tables and data model.
All right. So again, this is Justin. I'm the dev manager. I'm going to kind of share a high level of different ways things can be wired in so that they show up in DPM attached to solutions. So this slide illustrates sort of the two different, what I'll call taxonomies. So one is a taxonomy of service portfolios, nodes, and then services. They can be either business or technical, and then service offerings. And this is the service portfolio management, tables, CMDB CI service technical, CMDB CI service business. We saw a lot of that in the slides that Caitlin just presented. These are also in those slides, you mentioned them, the service portfolio and the taxonomy node. And when you create these two objects here, a service portfolio and taxonomy node, you'll end up with this tree that you see here in DPM. So right here at the top, this is a service portfolio, and then end user services is a node, PC management is another node, new PC installations is the service, and new PC installation onsite is a service offering. And so this is a sort of very simplified illustration of the relationship we see right there. On the other side of this diagram, we have enterprise portfolios, which can contain taxonomy nodes, which can either directly contain application services or can contain business applications, which then reference an application service. You'll see that over here in digital portfolio management. Here we went here and we looked at business application portfolio. And then you'll see the portfolio. This is a node. And then we have the actual business application. And then down here, you'll see the application service. And of course, you can also build out application service portfolios, which go straight to the application service. So portfolio, node, and service. Like Caitlin was saying, this is sort of the shape of your data and how we would present it to users in a taxonomy. Okay. Now, it gets a little bit more interesting when we talk about wiring up specific things to specific, like for example, improvement initiatives or changes or incidents, and I'll show you a few of those to specific solutions. And so that's where I'm going to go through some of those relationships. I'll start over here. Let me go back here to Enterprise Technology Service Portfolio. So we're on the right side of that diagram that I showed. And I'm going to go to PC management, new PC installations, and I'm going to go all the way down here to new PC installation on site. Okay, so here we see we have 8 open incidents. We have no incidents in the last 24 hours. And one thing to note here, this is PAR data, which means it is calculated every 24 hours. You can see this is data from July 22nd. I'm actually taking this recording on July 23rd. So it's important to note that this is data over time. And then we should see more real-time data down here in the needs attention section. I'm going to go to the incident creation form and I've already filled this out a little bit. And I've wired it up here. See this service and service offering? That's how you wire up an incident to this solution, the main way to do it. There's some other approaches you can take with related lists, but this is the main thing. Impact is high and urgency high. When I submit this guy, here's the incident right here. It's showing up as P1 critical. So theoretically, if I go in here into DPM and I hit refresh, enterprise technology, end user services, PC management, new PC installations, on-site, you'll see an incident down here. And so this illustrates how you would wire an incident up to an offering. And that is best practice to wire stuff up to the offering, not to the service. Now, once the nightly job runs, this number will update to 9 if there's no other, if this incident is still open and there's no other incidents added intervening time. So that's the first example. We've wired up an incident, and you can see the incident over here in critical and major incident. How would you wire up an outage? So I'll show how that's done. It works a little bit different. Let's go over here to all outages. And I'm going to create a new outage. And here I'm going to actually choose a configuration item, which is the service offering, which is the recommended way to attach outages, not to the service. I'm going to say on-site installations are unavailable. I'm going to begin now, so it shows up and needs attention. A check, all right. And then I'm going to submit. Now, when I go into DPM and I hit refresh, PC management, new PC installations on site, we'll actually see a second outage here that shows up, which I just created. And so what I wanted to show you guys there is instead of using like the service and offering fields like you saw in incident, in this case, we're using the configuration item field on the outage table. And then finally, this is the SN align core demand. And here I should be able to, and then new PC installations on site, and then new style DPM demand record. And I'm going to submit this guy or save it. Okay. Now, if we go over here to DPM, go back here and refresh this, we see new style APM demand record. All right, so I'm going to go back to the slides. I'm not going to go through each value or how to wire up each field in DPM. That would take a week, but I will kind of talk through some of the patterns. And so we've gone over some of the objects you can attach to services and offerings. And there's two different ways. There's one is direct references, which I showed you. There's also some that use related lists. And you'll see things like affected CIs on an outage or an incident. So you can basically, if there's a, like in this case, an incident, it can impact multiple application services is what I'm showing here, or it can impact multiple service offerings. So now we're going to talk about business application references. So some of these things are very similar to what I've shown before, where the pattern is a direct reference. So in this case, if you wanted to look at backlog items, there's a field on the backlog item, which is called business application. So it's just a direct reference. And if you were to wire up that business application to this planning item, it will show up on that business application. Now, there are other approaches where, for example, for an idea, right, this is an older style table. There's actually two fields. There's idea.businessapplications and idea.businessapplication. So one is a direct reference and one is a list reference. And in this case, the recommended way, the way that works in DPM is you use the list reference. So you can essentially add multiple business applications to an idea. And then you'll see another example where we have the glide list. This is a list reference here. And this one handles both. Projects, you can either do the direct reference, which is CMDB CI Business App, or you can use the CMDB CI Business Applications glide list, which is a list reference. And then there's more of that. I'm not going to go through all of these, but there's more references here. And so what I was trying to, and hopefully succeeded at, illustrate is that There are multiple ways and patterns when you want to wire up your data, your plan, build, run data to your solution types, whether they're service offerings or business applications or application services. And that's all I've got.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you found this content valuable. We do have additional resources here, and we will include these links in the video description. So please feel free to check out additional resources for more information and have a great rest of your day or evening.